Hey everybody, Mark Walters here. You're in my rock and roll war room. That is the famous 70s metal band UFO, signed by Michael Schenker, one of my favorites. Most people have no idea who that is, but that's okay. And here's a couple albums that I was on by my friends Testament. They graciously allowed me to be on their albums. And then here we've got my studio. Now you will notice there are no Marshall stacks in this studio. And there is a reason for that. It's because I have no discipline when it comes to loud music, and I would be deaf in about 3 hours. So I'm not going to do that to myself, but this is where my buddies come over and we regularly make rock and roll happen, or at least an attempt thereof. So anyway, I wanted to shoot this video very quickly for you so that you could know a little something about equity sharing. Now this was something that was pretty popular back in the 1970s and 1980s, but I don't hear it mentioned too much lately, so I wanted to share it with you. Now an equity share is kind of like a joint venture in a sense, where an investor gets together with someone who's going to move into the house and make payments. Those people are known as occupiers. So you've got an investor who is supplying the funding, getting the financing, if you will, and then an occupier who moves in, takes advantage of home ownership, makes the payments, and then at a predetermined time down the road, they'll sell the property and split the equity. Okay, so usually the time frame for that is anywhere from about 2 to 10 years. So that's cool. Another thing, if you're an investor and you have properties and you're having a hard time filling them, okay, a lot of properties on the market and you want to stand out, well, you can let people know, hey, look, you can come in, you can enjoy home ownership, we can take advantage of tax benefits, and down the road, we can sell this property and split the equity. Or if they'd like, they can just refinance and buy you out. Really a good way to go about it. You can also find sellers that way in a hot market. So let's say sellers are motivated, they really need to sell their house, it's a hot market, values are going up, and they're getting hit on by every investor around, and you'll let them know, hey look, I'm not looking to steal your property like everybody else, let's benefit together with this in something known as an equity share, okay? So that's another good way to be able to acquire property depending on what cycle you're in the market. Now, I want to let you know too that it's important that the verbiage is set up properly. And I'm certainly not giving legal advice here. I think it's really important that you contact a real estate attorney for 30 minutes of their time, and here's why. A real estate investor, of course, can take advantage of real estate tax benefits, but a lender cannot. And an occupier, someone that's living in this property, doing this equity, this equity share, they can take advantage of taxes, tax benefits, but a renter cannot. So you don't want your contracts to look like one or either of the parties is a lender or a renter. They need to look like an investor and an occupier. So it's just important that it's worded right. Again, not giving legal advice, but if you set that up, then you can both take advantage of the taxes. And of course, all that can be predetermined in the contract. All right, and then if you are looking to sell the property down the road, you just easily get an appraiser. They tell you what fair market value is, and then both parties then, with the proceeds, the investor would get their original investment back, the occupier would get any capital improvement money that they made on the property back, and then you'd split the equity. Of course, you're going to negotiate all these things, and it's going to be predetermined in the contract, but not a big deal. Now, you may or may not want to lead in your marketing with an equity share or in your approach to a buyer or a seller, but it's a good thing to have in your bag of tricks. So if you're trying to negotiate with a motivated seller and yep, they're motivated, they're going to give you the deed to the property, well, of course you wouldn't necessarily need or want to do an equity share. But if you want the property, you've negotiated something really good, but they're on the fence and it looks like the deal's going to fall apart, well, of course then you can bring up an equity share, make the deal happen, and still be able to profit. So I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope you can put an equity share technique in your bag of tricks and profit from it for a long time. So now I am going to get behind the drum kit and rock out a little bit because like I said, I've got no discipline. I'm in this room, I've got to make some music happen. So I'm Mark Walters and I'll share more with you very soon.